Welcome to the Voices of a Black Man. My name is CK James, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to none other than Troy Lee. Now, the Voices of Black Men is a platform for Black men to tell their story through their lens. You know, in today's society, there's a lot going on, and I hear a lot of narrative all about the Black man, but I don't see the Black man telling the story. Everyone else is. So, the Voices of Black Men was created just to be that a platform for them to be seen and heard for who they are, not stereotypes, not put in one box, but as individuals with various backgrounds, experiences, aspirations, and dreams. So I have Troy Lee with me today to tell his story. How you doing, Troy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having
And oh, absolutely welcome. I'm honored and humbled. Absolutely. I'm just going to jump right in and for our viewers. And can you tell us a little bit about where you're from? How'd you grow up?
Well, I was born and raised in Jersey City, two-parent home, pretty nice. Definitely in the hood, but it felt like a suburb at times. But, Jersey City is one of those places that, depending on where you go, is good in some places and bad in others, like any other regular city. But I'm from Jersey City now, here in Raleigh.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina, the great state of North Carolina, I like to call it.
I hear you. I hear you. So you said you were raised in two-parent home.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Jersey City all the way up to high school?
Jersey City all the way up to my mid 20s. I wanted to get a new sense of identity, I would say, a new sense of life. So about 6 years ago, me and my wife, Precious, decided to move to North Carolina after really sending out a big net of different places that we were considering living. Some of the places, Florida, Virginia, Texas, Pennsylvania, just to name a few, Atlanta. We were looking at different places just to get a new sense of, just get a new feel, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how long have you been married?
We have been married for 8 years. We got married in Jersey, and we were college sweethearts, and we've been riding thick and through.
Wow, wow. So let's go back to the young Troy in Jersey City a little bit and bring us up to the 8 years and with your wife. Um,
Hope everybody has time. Get your coffee now. It's a long story.
Tell me, what was the young Troy like?
I'm still pretty much the same. I'm really quiet. I like to stay inside. I would say younger me might have been a little bit more outgoing. I would go outside and play pretty often. It was a little easier growing up, I would say, in the 90s than it is now. But I was pretty quiet, smart, and I would say always positive, smiling all the time. Um, just a kid, not really having any worries about anything. And that's kind of carried over to my adult life.
Yeah, yeah. So what, as a kid, what were your hobbies or interests or what were you into?
I enjoy video games, like most kids, sports. The interesting thing I like to do, and from time to time I still dabble in it, when something would break in the house, I didn't ever let my parents just throw it away. I actually would take it in the room and I would always disassemble it. I would always get the tools and I would take it apart. I was always interested in how things worked. I'm surprised I didn't go into engineering or anything, but I always took things apart because I was always interested to see what was inside. So if a microwave or if like a VCR or something broke, I would actually bring it in my room, close the door, and I would start taking it apart.
Wow. So influences during that time.
I would definitely say my parents, my grandparents, probably some sport figures. I think, and actually, I was just thinking about this the other day. When you're young, you hang up people that you admire on your wall. Some people hang up, hip hop or R&B artists. I had a lot of athletes on my wall, a lot of wrestlers. I was big into wrestling, so I had a lot of things on my wall. And now as adults, you start hanging actual portraits and different things on your walls. So it's interesting how those things change as you're a kid to an adult. But yeah, a lot of it would be my parents. I think my parents worked hard to make sure that we didn't want for anything. I would say that I was pretty spoiled. Um, I mean, you grow up and you got cable in your room, and you got internet and computers and all these other things in your room, and everybody else is kind of sharing things, and I'm like, well, no, sharing is not really what I do. But yeah, we were pretty blessed. So I would definitely say my parents, and then probably, as you start to grow up, you start reading, you start seeing people on TV, and of course your idols and your people that you look up to kind of change. But I've always respected my parents for the hard work that they put in, the different hours that they've had to work, the commitment and sacrifices that they had to make in order to, provide for us, because we weren't cheap by no means.
So you say we. So how many siblings, and where did you fall in the sibling rank?
Well, I'm the younger sibling. My older brother, I think we're a difference in 6 to 7 years. We're two. We're the Lee men. I always used to think, I wonder how it would be if somebody broke in here with three men growing, three grown men in the house, and my mom. Like, it would be so interesting, but of course it never happened. But it always used to cross my mind, because we were three pretty grown men. I was growing very fast. My brother was growing, so it was always an interesting time. Bread and milk didn't last very long in our household.
Now, did you see a big difference in, since you had a 6 to 7 year difference in you and
Mhm.
your brother, did you see a big difference in how the two of you kind of were brought up, or were you brought up very similar?
Well, we actually had a conversation about that the other day. I'm not gonna lie, I did learn a lot from watching his interaction with my parents, watching what my mom or my dad might say to him, just kind of studying them. It was so funny because I was literally just having this conversation about how I studied my parents and kind of their behaviors, just to see, like, not what I could get away with, but what was it that would make them upset, or what was it that could get me to get what I want,
Yeah.
but by watching what he was doing and doing some of the same things, but then sometimes doing something completely different. Just to give you an example, I got out of the habit of making excuses as a young age. It was always, being proactive. So, like, if my dad came up and said, oh, did I tell you to take the garbage out? I would always say, oh, you know what? I was just about to do that. So I was always ready, to, prepared for whatever it was that they were throwing at me. And I think they studied me as well because, as I stated about taking things in my room to take them apart, whenever they would ask me to clean up, I would never just, put things up. I would actually take everything out of my room and I would put it in the living room. And then I would clean the entire room, and then I would put everything back differently. And sometimes they would come like, clean your room, but don't take everything out. I said, listen, you want it one way or the other? You want me to clean it, or you want, because there wasn't no brief momentary cleaning. It was, I'm gonna clean the whole room. I want every crevice of this room clean. If I'm gonna clean it, I'm gonna clean it. But if you want me to just dust, I'm not doing that because I'm a kid. So it's like I wanted to change my room around. I wanted to look different. And sometimes I don't even know what made me do it. And even as an adult, sometimes, Precious will leave. And if she's gone too long, oh, this is going to be different when she come back. So, yeah, it's definitely things I studied about my parents, and I'm sure they studied about me.
Wow, wow. Tell me, middle school, high school.
Middle school, I think between kindergarten and eighth grade, it was all about sports. You wouldn't have told me I wasn't going to be a college and professional athlete. And I had dreams of being an athlete. I just think my work ethic at the time didn't match my dreams, which that's definitely something that I would leave at the end of the call. Your work ethic has to match your dreams. You can't have one without the other. But I also had dreams of being a video game tester. I had the weird dream of being dang, I just lost my train of thought here. Not an analyst, but a finance person. Like, I wanted to be in finance. I loved counting money. So it was interesting to watch my I guess, my transition through elementary school, where I was into finance, I was into math, I was into counting money up until maybe the 8th grade when I got my first F in math. And that kind of changed my whole thing. Up, never mind, don't want to do it anymore. Let's move on to the next thing. So yeah, elementary school and middle school, it was pretty much all athletics. Anybody that knows me from that time knows that I was, they know I was one of the best. I was the first one hitting home runs. I was the first one kicking the ball the furthest, touchdowns, the works. Only thing I couldn't do was climb that rope in gym class. But other than that, it was all athletics. High school, I still was into sports. Not really the, I would say not really the most outgoing person. I didn't really hang out too often. I was either in sports or I was at home playing video games. I didn't really do too much outside of sports. I would be considered a gym rat. I loved being in the gym every day. We were working out, me and a couple of friends of mine. But other than that, yeah, it was all football. And when football wasn't going on, we were just pretty much hanging out, playing games, getting ready for the next season.
So let me ask you this. Now, growing up and during that time in New Jersey City, when was the first time ever, and it may have been after that, that you discovered that you weren't just a young man, but you were a Black young man? And what did that mean to you?
I think my first experience with it it wasn't anything negative. I think at first it was just like kind of like a comical moment where it was maybe in like 5th or 6th grade, we had a substitute teacher, and I can't even remember her name. But I forget how we even got in the conversation, but she was just talking about how people were from different places, and we had, people who had different backgrounds, different family histories. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, you look like you have some Native American in you. So I said, oh, I have no idea, So I went home, and of course, being a child, I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, the teacher said I might have some Native American in me. And he said, nope, you're 100% Black. And I said, So I went back to school the next day. I said, nope, he said I'm 100% Black. And that was kind of the first time I kind of really was like introduced to being Black. Like there was nothing, like we're growing up, it's like, yeah, people talk about people's skin color, as your child, It was unfortunate that people who were darker got teased a lot for being dark. It was like the most ridiculous thing when you really think about it. But as a child, you really don't know until you get older. You're like, that was so dumb, But yeah, that would probably be the first time I was introduced to it. It was just a small conversation. I just remember my dad saying like, no, you're Black, and it was just one of those things.
Wow. Wow. What is in New Jersey, in New Jersey City where you grew up, was it predominantly African American community, or was it mixed, or how'd you grow up?
I think I would say in the 90s, it was predominantly Black from what I remember. You had predominantly Black and maybe a mix of Latino on the streets that I grew up on. But now, if you look at it, it's definitely changed. But at that time, most of the people that I hung out with and most of the people that were there were mostly Black families.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was mostly Black families. And then I didn't really start moving into a quote unquote predominantly white area until I went to high school, because I went to a private high school just to try something different. My parents, although I could have went to one of the public schools in Jersey City, we decided to send me to the high school Marist, which actually just closed last week. They closed their doors last week, which is very unfortunate. But that was in a predominantly white area, but it was a mixed school because it had kids from all over. But when you go to that particular city, and historically, it was known for its prejudices.
Wow. Did you see any differences going from your area to the predominantly white area? Were there any differences that you noted?
No, I think because it was like right on the borderline, like it's like Jersey City, New Jersey has a lot of individual lines, and I've noticed that with Raleigh and the Triangle, it's like if you take one left somewhere, you're in a different city. So the borderline between Jersey City and Bayonne, New Jersey, was pretty much a McDonald's. So it's like you cross that McDonald's, you're pretty much in Bayonne, and then you come back, it's like they're so close. So at that point where my high school was, you couldn't really tell.
Mm-hmm.
But if you continue to go in a little further, you could definitely tell some differences, not too many though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. So, okay. So we leave high school.
Hmm.
What's next?
So after high school, I started working heavy. I did go to college. I went to St. Peter's College, which turned into St. Peter's University, still in Jersey City. I decided to stay home. I think looking back on it, if I could go back, I might have considered a different choice. But I have to think hindsight 2020. I met Precious. I met some other great friends. So it all kind of worked out. But every once in a while, I think about had I chose like an HBCU or a college out of state, how that would have been for my development. But I did choose to stay in Jersey City and go to St. Peter's University. I stayed with my parents, and I began working. It really became a juggling act of working and school. I had a schedule down pat where I went to school 3 days a week and I worked 4 or 5 days a week, and I had one day off. I would go and go and go and create this schedule so that I could make money and go to school. It wasn't one or the other. It was always both. And as I kind of went along, maybe up to my junior year, I started realizing that I wasn't having no fun. Like I was young, I was a kid, but I was in such a hurry to grow up. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap. And I would say by my junior year, I hurt my leg the first time. I tore my ACL, MCL, and PCL. And I was dating someone else. Right before I got with Precious, I was dating someone else. We broke up. I took this time to really clear my schedule. So at the time, I was working 2 jobs. So I decided to quit one job and really start focusing on my education, finishing, and my one part-time job. And I did that through my senior year. And that's when I met Precious my senior year, and the rest is history.
So you talked about working a lot through college. Did you have to work through college, or is that more of you just wanted the money and wanted to do certain things for yourself?
I think as a young man, you want to do things for yourself. I think I could have definitely continued to play sports up until St. Peter's decided to close out their program, because I think my sophomore and junior year, they decided to do away with the athletic program, the football program. But I could have definitely played. And my dad said that he would have continued to help pay for little stuff if I kept playing. But I think what happened with me, and this would have been the first time someone said something to me as an adult that made me kind of look at him side-eyed. I remember the coach, and this is the reason why I didn't play. He said to me after I asked him if I can go to a summer orientation for college, he said, when you come to college, eventually you have to make a decision whether you want to play sports or you want to go for success. And I said, well, I'm not, in my mind, I'm like, is this guy crazy? Like, I'm not here in a scholarship or anything like that. I'm here as a student. So this orientation is going to give me 3 credits, and they're going to give me a $75 book voucher, and I think $75 towards something else. And I'm like, and you're talking about success versus being a student athlete when you're not giving me anything. So I never went back. And I did find out that some people who were in the orientation did play sports, but had he not said that to me, I probably would have played. But once he said that, I said, well, I don't want to play for a coach like that. So I kind of just said, forget it. And I started working I think I was working at CVS, and then I started working at the cruise port that they opened in Bayonne. And I just said, forget it. And then I think he got fired a year later, and they brought in another coach. And a lot of people were like, oh, you should come back. And I was like, you know what, I'm already making this money. Once you get that money bug, there's no going back to not having money. So yeah. I said, no, I'm good. I'm going to keep working these 2 jobs and making money. You guys go have fun, put your bodies through whatever you want to put your body through, but I'm going to keep making this money.
Gotcha. So now we graduate college with what degree?
I graduated with a bachelor's in sociology. I struggled to find a major for about 2 years. I started as business with a business concentration, but the first day of the business class, I was just like, this guy is so boring. I was late for class. I was falling asleep. I was like, you know what? This is not going to work. So I tried a few intros. I did intro to psychology, got a D. I did intro to, I think, computer science, D. So I was like, you know what? I need to find something else. So I met my mentor, Dr. David Surrey, my sophomore, junior year, and he was teaching sociology. So I checked it out and I was like, you know what? People are going to be around for a long time. So I said, let me find out why people do things based on where they're from rather than why they do things based on their mind, which is psychology versus sociology. And then after that, I said, you know what, this is really, really awesome. Like, I really love this aspect of studying. So I went full fledged on sociology. My senior year, I did regret not going into international business because I did really, really enjoy that international business, and that international business teacher was awesome. But by that time, I was so committed to sociology that there was no going back. And I had an opportunity to participate in forums. I went to Dominican Republic to study baseball, tourism, and how they kind of work together. Because in Dominican Republic, obviously, there are a lot of baseball influences. So, I mean, I had a lot of great experiences from being a sociology major. So that definitely worked out for me.
Okay. Let's fast forward that to your profession now. Did you use the sociology degree at all
Um,
or never? How'd you get to where you are today?
So I think having a bachelor's degree is always good. I didn't use it as much as I wanted to. I do think it got me into. There is an organization called Jersey Cares that I did do, not directly after college, but I did work with a nonprofit for AmeriCorps.
Mhm.
I did AmeriCorps for a year with them, helping them recruit volunteers for their monthly and annual volunteer program. Pretty much they work in New Jersey to pretty much spread the word of volunteerism, and they pretty much focus on making volunteerism easy. So because I came from a volunteer background, a recruiting background, they actually put me in charge of recruiting volunteers. So I would speak at different events. I would go to colleges, fairs, different events, pretty much to speak to different people about volunteering. I would come up with a newsletter every month, so on and so forth. So that might have been the only opportunity I had to really use that sociology degree. But I would say that it did get me into the door for the first job that I did have, which I would and wouldn't trade in for the world.
What does that mean?
So my first job, my first full-time job, I worked with the University of Phoenix. They had a Jersey City campus. Now, for all my University of Phoenix people, I know they're out there listening, and I know they're like, tell the world how it was like. It is very interesting, to say the least. I met a lot of great people. I developed a lot of great skills, but there were parts of the job that were harder than others. There were a lot of difficult conversations you'd had to have with people. The pressure to enroll, because I was an enrollment advisor, the pressure to enroll was really, really high. And I was surprised that I was able to stay there for over 2.5 years. But I was able to kind of manage it, and we worked hard, but it was very, very stressful. Definitely not something that I went to school for. And it was an interesting time in my life. I'll say that. Very
Okay.
interesting.
Okay. Fair. That's fair. What's your profession now?
Right now, I work with Blue Cross and Blue Shield in North Carolina. I'm in healthcare, which is another people-oriented position. I work in appeals. This is not what brought me to North Carolina, but this is where I am now. I love what I do now, but I think the thing that really makes it stand out, this particular role, is that it gives me an opportunity to do things outside of work. We talked about this off the stream here, but being able to be a content creator, being able to help with movies, do podcasts, help with reading scripts, helping with filming movies, helping with doing shows such as this. I think that's where our direction is going. And I've never been a person to put myself in a box. I've wanted to do different things since I was a young kid, as I mentioned earlier, and it just kind of keeps growing. So anytime anybody asks me what I want to be when I grow up, it was like, well, what don't I want to be? Because really the sky is the limit, honestly, and you can really be anything that you really, really want to be with time and persistent. But I love my job right now. It's pretty cool. That's what gives me an opportunity to come and do the interview. They're very flexible. Blue Cross is a great company to work for, and they've given me an opportunity to succeed outside of the other companies that I've been with.
Profession, interest, just all the things that you just talked about, because you put a whole lot in that one sentence of what do you do? And I heard a lot about content creation and helping with movies and producing, just a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah, I do a lot. I didn't even mention football coaching. I coach football. I'm on the media ministry at the church. I've been a poet in my past life. There's a lot of different things I've done over the last 10 years. It's just, putting it into perspective and like really sitting down and writing it down. Like, we've been on TV. We've done a lot in 10 to 15 years.
And podcaster?
And podcasting. I've been doing podcasting with my friend, Khalif. We do Debate Amongst Friends. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Debate Amongst Friends. Cheap plug, but hey, can't blame me. We do sports podcasting. And that was just something that was based on a post that I wrote, speaking of Voices of a Black Man and something that happens with the media. We had conversations every day. My drive to work is about 35 to 40 minutes, outside of this coronavirus pandemic. And we would talk on the way back. Like I would call him and we would talk about sports. So I said, man, we should make a podcast. We talk about sports every day, why not just have a podcast and just talk about it? So one day, and this is how random it was. One day I posted a picture of Jared of Subway and Bill Cosby. It was a newspaper clipping. One said Jared gets a footlong or something like that in prison or something. And then I think for Bill Cosby, it said Bill charged with rape. And I was like, it's so funny that they're so lighthearted about Jared, but they're hammering on Bill. It's funny, you talk about footlongs and Subway, that's hilarious. But here you are, you're calling this man a clear and cut rapist or whatever it was that they used. So that conversation got so much buzz. It was like, you know what? I really, really think we should just start putting out content for the things that we want to talk about. It just so happened that it was about sports and that people wanted to hear what we were talking about. Now, easily I could have went and started talking about race and things like that based on that post, but I know that for me, I think continually to talk about negative things, although it's important, that kind of brings you down sometimes, talking about negativity all the time. So I always try to speak positive. I always try to speak light, not so much darkness. So I think us focusing on sports and giving people a media outlet for sports, not just the average and the same things over and over, that's what we were striving for. That's just one of the things. Like I said, we do a lot.
Nice. So, okay. So let's talk about sports a little bit.
Sure.
Let's get into sports. Let's get into sports and the platform that athletes have. What's your take on how they should use it?
I think they should use it to the best of their ability in any and every way that brings positivity. I think if brings positivity and sheds light, I think it's one of those situations where if you feel like something is wrong, you should speak about it because people are following you. People are looking at you. People can see you. So if it's something as simple as, the I Can't Breathe shirts, it makes sense. there are still people to this day, God rest in peace to Kobe, but when you shoot a basket, you shoot something in the garbage, we all say Kobe. So just think about that mindset. It's like, man, we all say Kobe. We don't even think about it. We shoot a paper into the trash can. We say Kobe. So it's like, if something simple as throwing a piece of paper and yelling Kobe enters your mind at the same time, just think about somebody like LeBron's, with an I Can't Breathe shirt, or somebody standing up and saying something. People remember it, and they'll be like, man, I love LeBron, and because I love LeBron, I want to be like LeBron, similar to being like Mike. Like when Michael Jordan finally came out and said something, it's like, man, it must be bad if Mike said something, because Mike don't ever say anything. Mike will donate all the amount of money he possibly can, but he has never said a word. Mike said something, things are getting a little out of hand, even though they've been out of hand. But for Mike to come out and say something, it's a big problem. But yeah, I'm all for athletes taking the stance of, helping push the cause along. I think they should. And I think anybody who doesn't, it's like, yes, you're there, but at any point you could be removed from that platform. So it's like, you might as well take advantage of it.
Let's talk about the other side of it, because you yourself are a business owner, right? Your own
Yes.
podcast show, different things.
Oh, yeah.
And so you, in some ways, are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the other side of the coin, because I like to always look at both sides of the coin.
There are two sides.
So looking at the side of the coin from the leadership, the owners,
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of, you work for me.
Right.
So do I have say in how far that goes, or no?
I think in terms of that, my friend always has a term that we throw out. It says, controversy creates cash. So if you ever see someone like, let's say 50 Cent, for example, 50 Cent has
Who's a rapper for our viewers?
Yes, the rapper, 50 Cent, for people who don't know. He hasn't put out an album in 5 years. He's done the show Power, which is great. It ended. I tell you, if you go back and watch 50 Cent, every 3 to 6 months, he does or says something to get himself back in the news. With owners, I think they probably don't like it, but they know that if LeBron says something, I don't want LeBron to leave my team. So I'm going to ride with LeBron. I don't want, well, I can't say I don't want Michael Jordan to leave, because that's a whole different story. If you all watch the documentary, they didn't care if Michael left. So I don't want my top players to leave. So I'm going to say, you know what? I will proceed with caution. And we kind of saw that during the kneeling period, where the Cowboys all knelt together. I think that was a big story. The Cowboy players all kneeled together with Jerry Jones. He actually came out and said, hey, I'm not going to allow anybody to disrespect the flag. I'll throw quote unquote on that. But it's like, yes, you're the owner and you pay me, but at the same time, I am still my own individual person. Now, me personally, I'm in support of what's good and what's true and what we can prove. Like, if I can see something and I have evidence, and that's where we separate ourselves. Like, if we have evidence of something and it's true, we're going to report on it. That's just how we do our show. But if it's just he say, she say, we don't touch it until all the things come out, until all the details come out. Yeah. So as an owner, I think, yes, you can stand back until you get all the details. Then it's time for you to decide which side you're on. And I'm not sure if you watch my wife and Sofab Kim's In the Divas Den. I'll give them a quick plug. But I actually wrote that in one of their comments. It's like, with Starbucks, you're either in or you're out. And everybody has that line where you either have to cross it or you have to stay over there. And at that point, we're either going to write you off or we're going to invite you to the barbecue. Which one do you want? And that's ultimately where we are at this point. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's like, we're going to say, we spend money. We all spend money. We all spend money. Yes, we get it. But we spend money also. And we're the ones getting killed. So we're telling you there's a problem. We don't want to hear we all spend money. We all ain't getting killed. You know what I'm saying? So this is where we as a people are saying to you, we spend money. If we're dying, we can't spend money. What are you going to do about it? That's pretty much where we are.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So let me ask you this about yourself.
Sure.
Thank you so much for entertaining the questions about sports. I've got one more sports question for you, but I'm gonna save it for a little bit later.
No worries.
Where do you sit, or how have you overcome obstacles when you think back just over your life or even today? Some of the biggest obstacles that you've had in your life. Would you share one or two of them with us? And then just overall, how do you usually meet an obstacle and overcome it? Or do you overcome it?
Sure, absolutely. I think that's where I was saying it's a positive and a negative that I worked at University of Phoenix, because I remember one of my managers at the time, he said, there are no mistakes. There are only areas of opportunity. And I think I kind of carried that along the way throughout my life. So it's like whenever something happens and I make a mistake, whether it be mishandling finances or, it could be anything. I've always told myself I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to pour myself another cup. If I don't have any more, I'll just go and get some more from the store. It's not really a big deal. I'm not going to get myself worked up for it. I'm just going to kind of move on. A specific incident, I can't even think of any right now.
Anything that you're like, I can't believe that happened and I was able to move forward or to overcome it. It may not be any.
Yeah, I think if I had to look, it's like, it probably wasn't even me. It probably really was all God. Like I can tell you right now, whatever happened, if I overcame something that I knew I couldn't control, because outside of not having those mistakes but areas of opportunity, it's always, I'm going to control what I can control. Always control the controllables. Everything else, I can't do anything about it. I don't worry about it. But yeah, for some reason, I cannot think of an obstacle. I mean, outside of continually to hurt myself, because I got both my knees, I've had surgeries on at this point, in which I had to go through physical therapy and things like that. But outside of the physical setbacks, I will say, if anything, it's dealing with being laid off. I was laid off from the University of Phoenix, but where there was a setback, there was a positive. They continued to pay for my education. I actually went forward and got my master's degree in public administration, in which that's also something that I had other plans to use for. I didn't get a chance to use it yet, but I'm only 34 years old, so I still got some time. But going forward with my master's degree was definitely a major accomplishment. And then moving here to North Carolina, I came here, I was working with Verizon Business, and I also got laid off from there. But the silver lining is I had started a doctoral program at that point, and I was working towards that. And when they laid me off, they had already paid about $24,000 worth of my student bills. So, I mean, I couldn't be mad at the fact that they let me go. I spent a lot of their money. But if they didn't let me go, I wouldn't have gotten the job at Blue Cross, and I wouldn't be where I am right now. So it all kind of worked out. That's why it's like, if I can't control it, I don't worry about it. There's no mistakes. It's just all areas of opportunity.
Got you. I understand that. Totally understand that.
Yes.
So let's talk about this. Are there any areas in your life that you accomplishments and successes that you've had in your life that you look back on and that are proud of? Number one. Mm-hmm. And then number two, are there any of those successes that people looked at you differently because you're a Black man and they just never thought you would be in that area?
Well, I think if I had to go with a major accomplishment, I think when I was growing up in my teens, I really, really wanted to be a poet. I was heavy into poetry. I did a lot of poetry for years. And I did get a chance to perform in, I think it was 2014. And that was really, actually, maybe 2010. That was a really, really great experience just to get that opportunity just to perform. As far as the second part, no, I try not to hang around with too many people who be hating. If you hating, I'm not trying to be around you. I've never been around anybody who didn't want success for me because I want success for everybody. Tony Dungy, once the head coach of the Colts and Bucks, he once said, "Your only job is to make your team better." And people around me, I try to make them better, and they try to make me better. So I've never been around anyone that said or felt anything like that towards me, at least not to my knowledge. But if they did, I mean, I can't. There's nothing I can say about that. I made it.
Got you. I totally respect and got you. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit of personal question, and
Sure.
only because I know that some of the viewers that we have will want to know. And
Sure.
so I'm going to go to your hair, which
Okay.
is in our culture. It can mean various things.
Mm-hmm.
It can be religion wise. It could be a journey for you. It can be a whole lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
To depending on who you are. So
Right.
your hair, choosing to wear it longer, choosing to
Yeah.
wear it in dreads, that type of thing. What does that mean for you, and how did you start that journey?
Well, I mean, if people saw the picture before we started, I had my hair. I had like I guess a fro hawk, I guess it's called. I don't know how to call it, but it was pretty much a high fade, and it was hard to work with and hard to manage. Every day you wake up, you got different sponges and combs and brushes and gels, and so it was like, you know what? One day I'm gonna get this thing locked up because I like having my hair long, and initially I started growing my hair out because I actually developed a keloid in the back of my head because I was shaving too much and shaving too
Mm.
close. So eventually I was like, well, I'm gonna just stop shaving it. I mean, that's gonna stop me from getting bumps. We just gonna let this thing grow. But then I started really thinking about the different styles and how I wanted to wear it. And my loctician, Biz Can Twist, I'll give you a shout out. I don't mind. Biz Can Twist on Instagram. Shout out to my girl Brittany. Um, I messaged her, and she gave me a lot of information. It wasn't just like, hey, yeah, come do, I'm gonna do it. It was like, this is what you need to know before you get your hair locked. Like, these are the things you're gonna go through. Your hair is gonna be sticking up in different places. You got to be prepared for it, and also doing your own research. So there is a long process mentally to go through this, and I think people need to, I think, get a get educated on locks before they start kind of commenting on them. And I think that's important. I think it's been a good journey. Of course, everybody looks at you differently, but to me, I never really worried what people thought about me. Even as a kid, that's not something I mentioned, but I wasn't the easiest person to crack on. I mean, I was big, but it's like if you're just gonna say I'm big, I mean, you got eyes, you can see. You know what I'm saying? So it was like,
Yeah.
you have to come up with something different. Okay, we have different sneakers. I don't really care about Jordans. Okay, what else do you got? You know what I mean? So that's just who I was, and that's kind of how I grew up. Like, I've never been a name brand person. I've never been the person who follows any trends. I am who I am. I wear what I wear, and you either can like it or you can get off the bus. So I do see people. Um, some people look, you know, um, but I mean, I can't. There's nothing really I can tell you. I'm not going to change who I am because of what you think. And it's so funny because I actually started reading the Bible. Actually, I'm going to read this here really quickly because I started reading this every day at 10 o'clock. It pops up on my screen. It was an affirmation that I saw, and it kind of made sense. And I have it on my Facebook, on my backstory. It says, your value does not increase or decrease based on what others might say or think about you. Your value comes from the ingredients God used to make and save you. And ultimately, that's it. So people can look at me all they want. They can talk about me. They can do anything they want. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I am who I am. This is how I was created. So you have to accept me.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Well said. So let's now go to college is where you met your wife.
Yes.
Okay. And what when did you decide or say, okay, she is definitely the one?
Well, we actually had a lot of common, like, I mean, we had a lot in common at the time. We were so connected. Like, it was so many coincidences to where we probably should have met when we were kids. Like, we probably met each other when we were kids, but we just had such a strong connection when we got together and everything started to kind of come together. It was kind of like a magnet. It was just like two people just coming together, and it was just like, oh my God, like God somewhere saying, oh my God, they finally met. Oh man, this is working. I'm glad he got away from that girl. I'm glad she got away from that guy. Oh my God, this is really happening. But yeah, we got together in college. I was a senior, she was a junior. We hung out. I remember, similar to how you mentioned about 10 minutes ago, how I was talking really fast and going a mile a minute. When we first got together, I talked for an hour and a half straight. I just told her everything about me. This is everything you need to know. I put out a whole manuscript of the last 4 years of my life. I said, listen, this is what you got to deal with. You know, here it is. I'm going to give it to you, and you can either take it or reject it. And, you know, here we are. I put all my crazy on the table, and, you know, she stuck with it. So, but I think I probably would have, the only regret I do have, probably not proposing a year earlier. That would probably be the only thing I would say I regret is not proposing a year earlier. But other than that, no, we've been riding it out, you know, going around, moving to different places, and just having a good time.
So I asked you that question because of this question, and I
Hmm.
wanted to kind of set the tone for it. Your legacy, when
Hmm.
it's all said and done, family wise, community wise, as an individual, what's your legacy?
Well, as a child, this is another thing I didn't mention. I always wanted to get married early. As a child, I said to myself, I wanted to get married early, and it was because there was something in my spirit that told me that I was going to be successful. And that success, I wanted to make sure that I knew what true love was before any of those accolades came. So everything that we're doing, you know, everything that we got going on now with the content creating and everything that we're doing is steps for us realizing that final win. Like, we know that we've already won because God has already agreed it, but it's like we are doing and taking the necessary steps to get to that victory. And I think me finding a wife early, like I had planned, finding somebody who I actually genuinely love and who genuinely loves me, now I can say, okay, I can go get that success now that I was talking about when I was a kid. Whether it be through, it was accounting, that's what it was. It wasn't finance, it was accounting when I was a kid. Whether it was being an accountant, being a filmmaker, being a poet, being a coach, being whatever it is that I decide to do. And it could be all of those things because that's everything that I do. I always tell my friends, like everybody, I tell everybody, we're one decision away from being millionaires. We just don't know it yet. We're like you starting this journey here. This could be, you could be one interview away from becoming a millionaire, you know, and that's pretty much where I see it. And I think my legacy is to have people come to my funeral and say, you know what, he went out on E. He gave everything he had and he went out on E.
E equaling empty,
Empty.
meaning
That's right.
full tank to empty tank.
That's right. He went out on E. He gave everything he had to use all his God given talents, and he's got nothing left to give.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I got plenty
yeah.
left. So, you know, Lord, don't take me. I got plenty left.
Oh, you said I got a whole lot of
I
stuff to
got a
do.
whole lot left. Lord, don't take me. Just give me
Gotcha.
a.
So let me ask you this: what's next?
I think for me, like I'm right now working with a gentleman on a script. I'm working with actually two different people with scripts. I have a few scripts that I'm gonna be writing on my own. To learn video editing myself, I did start a virtual football league called the EFL, which stands for Elite Football League. Pretty much, we took everybody and anybody who watching, if they play Madden, they would get it. But we took all of the top players out of the video game and left just the bottom tier people. And we're pretty much building a league with people rated under 75. So you're not going to get any Tom Brady's or Mahomes. You're getting people that you barely know, and I've been filming the games and I'm doing little edits to try to work on my editing. So we decided to make little storylines out of that. I'm following the movie The Replacements right now for season 1 with Gene Hackman and Keanu Reeves. They had players who went on strike and they had replacement players. So pretty much that's what we're doing with this video game right now, pretty much having our own version of replacements. But outside of that, just focusing on, continually bettering myself, working on my podcast. We just wrapped up season 4. We're going to start prepping for season 5 next week. Working on the scripts, working on helping my wife. My wife and I have a YouTube channel for K-drama review, which our first video that we did last September, I believe she said just hit 20,000 views. So we'll be putting out another video hopefully with that soon. And really just whatever comes my way, I'm gonna keep flowing with the wind. Wherever the wind say, that's where we're gonna go.
Wow. Exciting. All exciting stuff. All good stuff. So, okay, I have a round robin of questions that I ask every single person that I sit down with. Are you ready?
Yes, go for it.
All right. Favorite food?
I'm just gonna say Chinese food. I haven't had it in a while because I know we were canceling them, but Chinese food is where it's at.
Okay. And some people may not understand when you say canceling something, because you said it a couple times throughout. What does canceling mean?
So canceling pretty much is when we as a culture decide that we're not going to follow, or we're not going to buy from, or we're not doing any dealings. Pretty much excommunicating that particular group or that particular store, that particular subject of matter.
Gotcha. All right. So when Chinese food comes back, you're in.
Yes, I will be in.
All right. Favorite movie?
My favorite movie, that's a tough one. Because my movies depend on my mood. Oh, God. Yikes. Because I have a different movie for when I clean up, if I'm feeling sad, if I want, my favorite.
Top 3.
Huh?
I'll make it easy. Top 3.
Top 3. Okay. It's mostly sports movies. I love Any Given Sunday. I would say I really love Rocky, like the Rocky series. Usually I watch Rocky 4. I could watch Rocky 4 over and over and over. And I probably would say outside of sports, oh, God. That's a tough one. I can't even think of another one right now. It's like there's so many movies that come across my mind. If I had to throw out any movie, it would probably be Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Why?
I love Back to the Future. I just think it was such a great trilogy. Like, it makes sense. Like, if you go through it if you go through it now as we develop scripts and you see how intertwined they were, like, it was really, really well done. And they didn't miss anything. Like, going back and forth, like, they didn't miss anything. And actually, I was actually watching a show earlier this year called Future Man, in which they kind of took some of those elements of Back to the Future and put it in. And I was like, wow, like, they're really, like, this is all really intertwined. And there's just so many movies. Like I said, it's the first movie that came to my mind, but I know that there are a lot.
Okay.
And they're like, he loved that Rocky, he loved this, he loved that. I mean, I could watch some movies.
What is it about Rocky? Particularly Rocky 4?
Well, Rocky 4 is the one where he goes to Russia. I think something about Rocky 4 gets me in the mood to work out. I think that might be what it is. Like, I love the fact that he went and really pushed himself to the limit. He didn't need any special equipment. Like, he was out there running in the snow. You know, the music was on point. He had people that was doubting him, but he still was able to overcome. And it was just something about Rocky IV that I really, really enjoyed. And I could watch it every day if I had to, because it's just such a well put movie. Like, it's a well put together movie. To me, it's a well put together movie.
Right. So when you're watching movies, it's not just the post production of watching it as a viewer. You're looking at production as well. In a lot
At
of
this
different
point,
ways.
we are. Yeah, at this point, when we watch a movie, we're like, oh man, like, that's a great shot. You know, it's like you can't watch it now after we done seen how it is behind the screen, because we actually were extras in a movie. I'll give another shout out here to Old Crappy Day, to my friend Steven and Lance. But we were in the movie with them, and just seeing yourself on the screen, you're like, man, that is an exceptional shot. So when you go to watch movies and documentaries, you're like, oh, wow, like, that was really good. Like, you know, I'm watching a documentary and they hit us with their climax and then they kind of panned away. Oh, man, that is good. So it's like you're seeing it from a different perspective than just a movie viewer. And some people don't get it, but once you see how it is behind that screen, it's completely different.
Gotcha.
Even
So
watching
what about?
church. Even
Say
watching
that
church.
again.
Even watching church, because we
Yeah.
were in the media ministry. You watch church. If you actually are on the cameras at church, and then you go and watch live stream, you're like, man, that is a good shot. I wouldn't have did that shot, you know. So like, you just see it differently.
Yeah. Okay. So favorite music or song?
My favorite song, probably of all time, something, and this is something else precious to say. I mean, I could play a song over and over and over. I don't ever have to change a song. I could listen to the same song for hours. I actually got in trouble once because I was downstairs because I had a basement apartment, and I tell you no lie, I played the same song probably for 3 hours, and I don't ever get tired of it. I could play over and over. And my dad said, he called me. He said, "I'm gonna need you to change that." And I said, "Oh, I didn't even know you could hear it." But like, I can play the same song over and over. But I think if I had to give it like my favorite song, it probably would be Eric Sermon and Marvin Gaye's Music, like Just Like Music. I really have always loved that song. And that's probably something, that's a go-to song. Like, if I don't know what to listen to, I could just put on Eric Sermon featuring Marvin Gaye Music and just let it rock. But there's a lot of songs I can do. For some reason, I started listening to Luther Vandross's Bad Boy a lot lately. Having a party, like, I don't know what it is, but I can play that over and over and over and be happy with my life.
Okay. Last one. Favorite ice cream?
I love anything with peanut butter in it. I'm a peanut butter fanatic. If it got peanut butter in it, I'm gonna eat it. And if it doesn't have peanut butter, I'm gonna add peanut butter to it. So it don't even matter. So yeah, I love peanut butter. It doesn't even matter. And I love rainbow sprinkles. So typically, it doesn't matter. And it could be ice cream, it could be frozen yogurt, it could be anything. I'm adding Reese's Cups, sprinkles. Not so much now because I'm on Weight Watchers, but if it's regular and we just eating, I'm adding peanut butter to everything.
Okay. Now, I did say that was the last one, but would be remiss, since you have a sports podcast,
Sure.
not to ask you who are your favorite sports teams.
Oh yeah, if you know me, you know, football. I'm actually, for 20 years, I want people to know this. I've been a fan of this team for 20 years, not because of recent transgressions and transactions. I have been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer football team fan since 1999, 2000, when they first had Tony Dungy. So I know a lot of people probably becoming Tampa Bay fans because we got Tom Brady. I welcome you, but I've been here for 20 years. I've gone through my Super Bowl, my Super Bowl victory in 2002, and we've been struggling ever since. You can jump on board, but I want you to know that I expect you to be on board through the ups and downs. We've been faithful, we've been loyal, and I've been here. I never put a paper bag over my head or anything like that. I just rode with the team for 20 years. And then for basketball, I'm a big Houston Rockets fan. That's probably been about the same amount of time, maybe a little less. I was a big Hakeem Olajuwon fan, a big Drexler fan. And yeah, I just always liked the Rockets.
Got you. Got you. Well, now being a leader yourself, what are we lacking in leadership?
I think people lack the ability to develop others. And I think that's where people like Tony Dungy and some of the great coaches that I've read about, the John Calipari's from Kentucky, I think really, really getting to know your people as individuals and not focusing on them as groups. Um, I give you an example. I think, like, I coach female flag football. Shout out again to the Gridiron Gang. If anybody's interested in playing football, I promise that's the last one I'm gonna throw out there. But if you're interested in playing football, females, it don't matter what your age is, how in shape or out of shape you are. If you want to play flag football, they are still playing. They actually just played yesterday. They went 1-1. Shout out to them. Um, but coaching, I think I'm looking at individual players. You can't talk to everybody the same. There's some people you can get away with, being a little bit more stern with, where other people you might be a little bit more, passive with. Some people you can really, really get in their face, and other people you got to be like, man, you really just got to step your game up. You can't play like that. So I think the people in leadership need to realize who they're working with, and realize who their individual contributors are, rather than treating everybody the same. Because it's tough to treat everybody the same. You just can't do it.
What makes you angry?
I don't really get angry, but I really don't. Since we're talking about the voices of the black man, I think racism is probably one of the dumbest things ever invented. I don't like racist books. I don't like racist movies. Like, to this day, I've watched Rosewood one time, and I think that one time was too many. I think racism is so stupid, to be hated on for something, again, that you can't control. Control the controllables. You can't control it. We're born with this skin color, and you don't like me because of the skin color. But it's not something that I can change. You don't even know why you don't like me, but you've been told that I'm this and I'm that, so you don't like me. It just never made sense to me. But I don't like racism, and I think the only thing other thing I don't like is I don't like being cheated. Um, I do not, in all areas. It could be something as simple as a game of Scrabble. If it's not a word, it's not a word. You know what I'm saying? I just do not like to be cheated, and I like to be treated fairly. So I think if I was gonna say anything, it would be racism and being cheated. I do not like being cheated at all.
What makes you happy?
I think seeing other people succeed. I I don't really. I'll say this, since we're putting it all on the table. I'll say this. I don't really cry during a lot of movies, but there's something about sport movies and somebody scoring a touchdown that just makes me happy. I don't know what it is. That's if like I could be watching anything, even when I'm coaching on the sideline. If I call a play that scores a touchdown, deep down the side, like I'd be like, "Dang, that was good." Like I'm super happy and I'm joyful, but it's like I would say watching other people succeed, helping other people succeed, seeing people change, and I think having a good time with people. Like you're sitting around, like I don't know if anybody's ever done this, but you're sitting around a group of people. Before COVID, of course. You're sitting around a group of people and everybody's just having a good time, and you just kind of sit in the back and corner. You might be sipping on your little drink, and you're just looking around and you're just like, man, everybody's having a good time. This is all right. Like this is okay. And you're like, that's the way we should be living. We should be living where everybody's just having a good time. So I think those are some of the moments that come to mind that make me happy.
Mm-hmm. If there was one thing that you would say to society that you just felt on your heart, what would it be?
The first thing that comes to mind is to mind your business. I think minding your business is a lost art. I really don't understand why we're so consumed with who's doing who and who's sexual orientations and who's married to who. Like I think we're so consumed with other people's lives that we forget to live our own lives. Like I've been saying this, and I don't really care what you like. Like that has nothing to do with me. Like if you like men, women, trees, as long as you don't like kids, I'm not really with that. Don't like kids, and that's against the rules. But if you like men, women, whatever, don't mess with pets either. I'm sorry, I'll go back. Don't mess with kids. Don't mess with animals. That's we're not doing that. But if you like men or women, whatever you prefer, that's you. I don't care. As long as you're not trying to mess with me or my wife, I don't care. I just think that people need to mind their business. You got all these people out here getting in people's way. You got people filming people. You got people calling cops on people. It's like, mind your business. Like this has nothing to do with you. Like, why are you consumed with me? You need to be worried about you, because you can't be successful at helping me or be consumed with me if you're not even successful at handling you. And that's where it's like, you need to mind your business. That's what I would say. That's the first thing that popped in my mind. It's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters. It's like, mind your business is what popped in my mind.
Wow. Okay. All right. This has been so much fun, Mr. Lee.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I have enjoyed the conversation. I thank you for sharing your heart, your mind, and telling your story through your lens. As always, I want to give you some time to say whatever's on your heart that you feel like you've never been seen or heard or never had the chance to be heard on, that you want to leave to an individual, a community, to the society or world. Whoever you want to talk to is up to you. And I'm going to be quiet so you can have the floor.
Hey, I appreciate it. Well, the first thing I want to do is thank you again for having me. Secondly, I would say for people to follow your dreams, don't listen to people who, if you feel like somebody's turning you down, if you feel like they're, I'm not going to say hating, but some people are just stuck in their ways. And whether it's a age difference, a cultural difference, or just a way people think and their mindset is different, I would say to always continue to follow what you believe to be your dreams and what your goals are, no matter how ridiculous they sound to other people. I would also say to read more books. If you don't read, I would say to read as many books as you can. It doesn't always have to be self-help, or it could be anything, because I think, speaking of 50 Cent, the rapper, the one thing that he said that I really, really enjoyed was that whenever he reads a book, he doesn't look to remember everything from that book. He just looks to take away one thing. And it's like, if we could take away one thing from a movie, a book, anything, you take that thing away and you store it in your memory bank, and that's something that's going to propel you to greatness. And we all have greatness in us. We just have to put our tools, put our skills to good use. And pretty much stop wasting away. Don't let society tell you who you are. Don't let society tell you what you can do. You are who you are for a reason, and you have to pretty much take this opportunity called life and pretty much make something happen. And I think once you start doing that, you'll live the life that you always dreamed.
Thank you, Mr. Troy.
Thank you.
This has been the voices. This has been the Voices of a Black Man with Troy Lee, his story through his lens. I'm so happy and honored to have you with us today. Thank you again for sharing your heart and your mind. To the viewers, I say thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for listening to Troy as he shared his story with us. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you. It's what I say every single time. You've seen and you've heard Troy. Now the rest is up to you. We all have biases in our life. Was there anything today that he said that allowed you to maybe spark something in yourself that you didn't know was there, that you weren't quite sure what that was? It's up to you to take action to explore it even more, to see, is it a bias? Is it commonality? Do you like Rocky IV? Do you like peanut butter on everything? It's to show that at the end of the day, we are all humans. No matter what race, ethnicity we are, what culture or background we come from, we all are humans, and we have more in common than we have that is not alike. I'm CK James. This has been the Voices of a Black Man, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern. I look forward to it. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye.